Peekaboo. Hello, humans, and welcome to Audio Face, an irreverent podcast about the music news and music culture that mostly matters. You'd think after 317 of those that I'd be able to land the plane, but that's why I have Sean, the pilot, here to help host with me.
Dude, just the little Easter eggs you have in the beginning of it always get me.
Oh yeah, just the sound drops
right now. The little sound drops every time. It's great.
Yeah, the little peekaboo was a little bit of a Diddy thing. More on that later.
Oh, absolutely. Oh.
Oh yeah. Hold. We have 3 albums, as we usually do. Last week we did 4 albums. Because there was.
But last week also we were off for like what, a month or some shit.
Yeah. And we're still behind on albums, and even more are coming out. Mozart's not letting your boy sleep. More on that literally in a moment. We are going to be reviewing the albums Jamie XX's in Wave. Who? I almost forgot about that guy. Like All Before You by the Voidz, and Endlessness by Nala Sinephro. I'm just gonna go with that because that sounds right. As for the super sort of big news, I guess, for the week is 2 things. One, as Diddy awaits his trial and a lot of hearings, he's supposedly been placed on self-delete watch in jail. And we on the Audio Face podcast feel very, very sad about that.
Oh no. Anyway,
it's the throwback to Top Gear. Oh no. Anyway, yeah. Not really caring too much. We'll let karmic justice sort itself out there. But we did get, which was a little bit funny. we did get, which was kind of funny, was purported videos of some of Diddy's raids on both parts of the coast, and included like I think the number I heard in the Independent was like the UK Independent was like thousands of bottles of baby oil, supposedly for the freak parties. You can use your imagination as to like how they're used, but I have this like conditioner that I really like for my hair, and like the company went out of business during COVID, so like I have like 6 bottles. I mean, like I used to. I probably down to my last 2 bottles of it, right?
Woke soap?
No, the Nature's Gate.
Nature's Gate went out, really?
The shampoo and conditioner, yeah. No, it was literally one time. Ponch got me like a box of them from like one of the health food stores. He was like, "That's it." That's
He goes, and that's all, folks.
No, yeah, because it works really well for both mine and your mom's hair, but that's neither here nor there. The point is that like, okay, that's like a normal sort of like stashing something that you like need, or it's not always in close proximity, or you go through it a lot, so you have like 4 cartons of like rice milk, like from all that kind of stuff, right? Thousands of bottles of baby oil, which begs the question: are you going through that much that fast, dude?
I mean, Ma Dukes. That's all I'm gonna say.
Ma Dukes finds herself a man, and that was just a great time. So yeah, minor updates on Diddy. Poor use of phrasing. But we'll just keep watching. We will keep you updated as that happens. Yikes. Anyways, speaking of
dead. You say like you gotta say like Trump.
Fat, ugly,
dead.
Mozart is dropping music, or like that was definitely the part of 2024 that like got the most absurd of doing the show.
That might be my favorite thing right now. What you just said, Mozart's dropping. I'm like, That's great. That's amazing.
What?
Uh, but basically, what happened, which is really cool and interesting, but um, a big catalog of his work was recently found, like this past week. Um, so it was written when it was in his teens, and they were trying to like update his catalog, or like they always keep records of composers' work and stuff, and then they always like organize it and stuff to make sure, if fire happens, that not all of it is lost, pretty much. But they discovered some
Unintentional
in
fires in the case of
uh,
Germany.
well, 1-800-Churchill. Um, but basically, in Leipzig, they found a bunch, about like a 12-minute composition. Um, and we're in the 1760s, so when he was in his teens, and it was just pretty interesting.
And
So
it's just like uncovered at, like you said, like a library in like a city library in Leipzig, and
Mhm.
that's just going to be really 12 previously unheard minutes of Mozart's kind of wild. Of
Mhm.
course, it's interesting with like classical music and when it's like written in sheet music like that, because it can really kind of have any players, any performances, that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
But I was just
You
gonna say that
can,
like it's gonna be really interesting to hear like whoever like does that performance, or the people who do these performances. I mean, not to be all NFT about this, but if you can read sheet music, the photos of it's right here. If you want to get the jump on Mozart,
yeah, that's
dead.
cool though. But like of dead, like of all the shit that happened in Leipzig throughout the years that survived, and it's just now discovered in the year of our Lord 2024. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now, is
Historians.
it considered a record or a drop?
We really need to think about this posthumous records conversation because it's really getting out of hand.
Man, we got new old Sophie and new old Mozart in 2024.
It's not getting any better than
We
this.
literally have to retire. Like that's it. This is
Horrors.
it.
Horrors.
Horrors, just horrors. You got a couple months, boys.
Horrors and Radiohead.
Oh. I was just explaining it to Vanessa. I'm like, so Radiohead were in Paris. Um, I don't think I can. I don't think I can handle this. I'm like, if I go to a concert, I'm not gonna see. I'm just gonna exist.
That's gonna be a really to imagine the scalpers on that alone. Radiohead's
Oh, I
last
don't
tour.
care. Will, in the words of 2017, we'll suck dick for Radiohead tickets.
Me outside of my German class with 2 computers and my phone trying to buy tickets.
Dude, me with like 17 computers on 6 phones, everything that Punch has, all of his project laptops. I'm like, you better run that shit now.
You say that every time the new iMac comes out.
And make that shit work, bitch.
All right, let's get into the first album. Also, hi Anti-Corporate, it's good to see you in the chat. This is not on the screen. There we go. This is Jamie XX's In Waves, 12 songs, 44 minutes long. As I keep mentioning, I'm using Tidal now, and it says 12 tracks, so I had to catch myself there.
Oh wow, it says tracks. Look at
Mhm.
that. Look,
Look at the Jigga Man.
beautiful.
Look
Look,
at the
look, look
Jigga
at the
Man.
Jigga Man. Knowing his they thems of the music world.
Ooh, I know. We are going to hop over that one. Even before Jamie XX, I think it's worth, mentioning and calling flowers out to the XX itself. Like that,
Oh, of
just
course.
like was a legendarily produced, like, an album kind of like its reputation precedes it when the intro is like one of the most popular songs from that album. Like just the regular intro track that isn't that complicated, but it's also so ubiquitous. It's very catchy. And way back when even that came out in 2009, it really kind of portended a really interesting, it capped off a really interesting time in alternative music, and it portended some really interesting things that are going to happen in alternative and electronic music later on. And so Jamie from the XX, appropriately named Jamie XX, releases in 2013 in color, which is just like, you had to be there. You just had to be there. for how often like I know there's going to be good times playing at house parties.
Hmm.
Just more Jamie XX and Rummy together. There's a great pairing, and they've been working together musically since the XX itself. And yeah, it was just it really I'm not sure exactly if or if it was like on 50 of the tens, but it is definitely like one of the 2010s most premier albums, in my opinion. So that gives us In Waves, which comes like a decade, no, almost a decade afterwards. It follows a similar format. I mean, the album covers are damn like the same, except this one's this sort of Tame Impala headache thing. Um
Yeah.
and it's a lot of the usual suspects. Rami is here again, Oliver Sim. You get really interesting sort
Avalanches.
of collaborations like Robin and the Avalanches, yes. Kelsey Lou, John Glazer, Panda Bear as well. So, it's
Hmm.
pretty, well thought out, stacked record. And, going into this, I kind of, knowing Jamie, knowing it was going to be a good project, I didn't expect it to be this cohesive of like an electronic
Yeah.
music record that plays through, that has blended pieces and stems that help extend the songs out and make them, a little bit more interesting and give them a lot more depth. I was just like, okay, all right, all right.
Yeah, like we had with Floating Points last week on Cascade. It's a beautiful electronic music record. I love that. A record that plays through. We've gotten two in a row in a week. This just it's amazing. The movie, they're sending their best. They're getting the best deals.
they are they are sending only the H1B visas only when it comes to electronic music.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's great. I the only thing I might not be a fan of like the opening track Wanna and the second track Treat Each Other Right. It's not the type of electronic that I like in that way, but I can appreciate in the context of the record. I really like Waited All Night with Rami and Oliver Sim. You had Batty on the Floor with Honey Dijon, who's a great
Oh,
fucking DJ. I was like, oh, that's a great pairing. And it did not disappoint. That is a fucking tune. In the words of your people, cracking tunes. Yeah, that one was really good. Yeah, Life with Robin, Avalanches Check All You Children.
uh,
I love that track. The way
the
that they complement each other on the sounds. It was beautiful. It's like a little bit of what was the I always forget the name. Plunder
little
something, right? God damn
Plunderphonics,
it.
yes.
Plunderphonics. A little hints of that mixed in with electronic music in that regard. And I was like, that's actually pretty cool with how they did that. Beautiful track.
I was kind of content with We Will Always Love You, or like like the last Avalanches like proper
Mhm.
record. I was like,
And it was an
you
amazing
know,
fucking record.
like the original Since I Left You Avalanches record came out in 2000. That was kind of like, a gem, the peak of Plunderphonics. And so getting We Will Always Love You in a year like 2020, I was like in a state that Sean and I have talked about, of like, okay, we'd accept the fact that Radiohead probably wasn't going to make any more music, and so we were just enjoying what we were getting and just like literally being happy to be here. So I wasn't expecting another Avalanches even like feature here, and look, we have an Avalanches feature, and it's beautiful. It has that sort of like emotional resonance that a lot of Avalanches songs have, especially We Will Always Love You. And it really just combines for there's a lot of emotional tracks, especially in the latter half of the record. I think Life executes that really well. I think The Feeling I Get From You, Breather, All Your Children, it's a really emotional, impactful sort of record in that way. Maybe I'm like overstating a little bit, but like it has the impact that I think has been a little bit devoid from electronic music, because it doesn't sound too much like some sort of trend or um some sort of like phase. Like I think we're sort of starting to be out of the hyphy typey EDM like phase of like
Yeah.
build ups and drops.
Thank
Like thank
God.
God.
It took 10 years too long, but I'll take it.
Anything, literally. But this shows like Jamie XX has that sort of like credibility. He's been doing DJing since you know In Color had come out. This is a really bold and well executed record. I don't think you can really say that Jamie XX this is his second record album curse or anything like that. He just worked on so much. It's also not bad. I do agree with you though. I think it could have started off a little bit easier, and on my like third listen, I like Treat Each Other Right, the second track, a little bit more than I did, but I'm
Yeah.
still a little bit like, okay, Wanna is a very
Meh.
interesting, it's almost like an underselling way to start an album that is like this
This good.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just that's my only real complaint of the record is that part of I don't like how it really begins. I don't like Wanna can stay in the record. It's just not a good opening track in that way. Even I mean you can even just move it in the middle or something as a transition piece and put Treat Each Other Right as the first opening track, and I think it would have flowed better in that regard. I definitely think on my second, third listen, I like Treat Each Other Right a lot more as well. So it's interesting that we both think that too. But overall, I think it's a fantastic record. We had Rami's record was that Midair last year that I was not a big fan of. It felt very just one volume, kind of stuck with one thing the whole way. And with In Waves, it's not one way. It's not one sound the whole time. It's up and down, roller coaster, but in a good way. And I'm very happy with how this is. And especially for taking, almost a decade to make, because dude, 2015 in color, Jesus Christ, I feel old. And to take this long between projects and for it to sound this good, especially in 2024, where you can easily
And different.
And different, yeah. You could easily mess up an electronic record, and this is just beautiful. So I'm very, very pleased with this, and yeah, it's good. Very, very good record.
Yeah, that's my last thing here is that like everything you said, I totally agree with. Like Jamie XX took his time, and he's been casually touring, and not really touring, but like I said, like DJing some of the early pieces of this material for a while. So I like it's a great execution. But I think what I love most about it overall, even more that got like a surprise electronic record, was that I'm not sure what I thought I was gonna expect. And I think it was like in the electronic direction, but I was really impressed by that there was no like obs or stranger in a room, or I know there's gonna be good times on here. Like it's a fully different sound, which it definitely needed to be. That would have been the worst direction Jamie XX could have gone in for this record. And I don't think he would have, but definitely like that was the pitfall before I started listening. I was like, okay, well, I hope he explores the interesting electronic things he has been exploring and doesn't go back to playing the hits. Because the hits, they exist already. They're already
yeah. I hope not. Like, don't always play the hits, but yeah.
Nah. Someone tell the former president, don't always play the hits. Maybe we just stop playing the hits. we need to move some of these until we don't make them like this anymore. It's kind of status. Inshallah, arbitrary scale. We do arbitrary scales every week on Audio Face because our review is our review. Rather than give you a letter ranking system or a number ranking system, we will create a new scale every single week to describe how we feel about the albums, because we just told you how we feel about the album in our review. This week, it's going to be bottles of baby oil. Is more better? Is more worse? I think it's an open conversation, like a lot of these arbitrary scales are. I'm going to give this... Let's see, In Waves has 12 tracks on it. So I'm going to add a 3 multiplier on that, and this is going to be 36 bottles of baby oil. That's about yeah.
Bottles. Oh, this fucking arbitrary scale is great. This
might be better to go to Costco. I need a drum of baby oil.
This is like Sam's Club. You get like just like 6 cartons or whatever, or not cartons, but like truckload or boxes of them. So you probably got like 10 in there. So this is a good 60 bottles. But you got it for the price of, like 3 bottles at Target, because you're at Sam's Club.
Yeah. Next we have Like All Before You by the Voidz. Great. I just didn't have it open on. That's annoying. Uh,
Rip.
I'm like searching for it in title and it's like not showing totally. There we go. I'm getting used to it. 10 songs, 42 minutes long. You can call that 43. And the Voidz are barely need any kind of introduction. They
It's been a while since they released a record. The last one was Virtue in 2018, which I
we really
blasted.
loved.
We really, really love that record. I mean, it was all over the place in a sense, but it's good. Like Curious, Wink,
It was
holy
very
fuck! I don't know
for
how many times I've listened to Wink,
mm,
Alienation, all the words made like just fucking
listen to a
Lazy
lot of
Boy. God
Alienation.
damn, yeah, Alienation goes hard. Like very, very ahead of its time in that way, right? And it's really a testament, I think, to Julian Casablancas as an artist, where he really separates the Strokes and the Voidz. Like they are two completely different sounds in that way. Like one's very experimental alternative indie, and the Strokes are solid alternative rock. And it's interesting to have that big of a difference where, you with, you know, Radiohead and Associates, they kind of stick with an idea and a sound in a way, but they always keep evolving said sound, but you can tell it's them. With the Voidz, it's very, very different than the Strokes. And I like that in that regard because it's not meant to play out like a rock record or anything. And you get that in Like All Before You.
Yeah, if I could describe the Voidz' sound, it's a very vivid, like you said,
Visceral.
alternative, visceral alternative music, like kind of forward with electronics and sense. Like, yeah, I go to Alienation all the time. It's just like a riff that stays in my head.
Oh,
And yeah, in this one, you kind of get something very different, but in the same vein. Like this feels like a Voidz record, but it definitely doesn't sound like anything from Virtue. It has its own sort of it has its own sort of take towards it, and it's a take I really love. We heard Flexorcist as the like lead single that came out of it.
I have listened to Flexorcist 47,816 times since last October. And when I first saw the track list for Like All Before You, they left it out. And I was like, I'm going to go to New York. I'm going to burn down the Mets Stadium just to piss off Julian Casablancas because he's living off Flexorcist. And then I pop it on and I don't listen. I don't look at the tracks. I just listen to it. And then after spectral analysis, which I'm going to get to in a minute, there's a lot to dissect throughout this record. When the Flickers just hit, I just sank in my chair in the car. I just went, oh, they did put it on. Oh, and right after Spectral, and I was like, oh shit.
And it works very well placed in this record for sure.
Beautiful. So I see a lot of people online and stuff like talking about how it's all over the place. The songs are long. They take a long time to develop and they have a lot of motifs in them. But that's what it's supposed to do. Like
I feel the same about every Voidz record. I feel like that's what they
and
are.
that's the thing. That's like to me, right? And this is I wonder if this strike up an interesting conversation. But with the other Voidz records, they're definitely very forward thinking, but they're not necessarily super long with the tracks. I mean, there is kind of going back to Mozart. There's that one like 12-minute long piece where they have a Mozart track playing in the background that they had on their first record, which is kind of fucking crazy that they did that on a debut, but they don't give a fuck.
You wild for this one.
Yeah, really hard. But with Like All Before You, like sample. So you have Overture as the opening track, just kind of sets up the theme. You have Square Wave, and Square Wave is kind of like two sounds in one. Up, you're frozen on your camera. Rip Dan. Did Dan die? Oh no. Well, I'll keep talking. This is great. With Square Wave, you get this really cool sound where the beginning. Oh, are you back? Dan is back.
Yeah. I've been having like minor sort of like internet issues just today. I've noticed in the stream, and they got really bad. So I missed pretty much the past minute of what you said.
Oh no, I was just filling in. So, boss.
Yeah, because you were
Diddy.
You were going to kind of talk about like striking up a conversation about this Void's record compared to the other ones. And I think yeah, I think you were kind of leaning into it with like people saying it's scattered and it's messy, but like
It's so
that's my
that's the
Void's.
point of
That's
it.
my Void's.
That's my Voidz. They don't make them like this anymore. But so what I was getting into was with Square Wave, right? You get two songs in one with a lot of these tracks throughout the record, but it's not like how a lot of them are done that we've been complaining on the past few years, right? Where 21 and Co, a lot of trap artists, pop artists, literally split it down the middle, right? Like I'm thinking the like Drake's Honestly Nevermind, the track with 21 Savage, where it's literally like 4 minutes, it's split into two, and it's distinctively split into two.
Man,
Where I'm like,
I had removed that album from my memory. That was
but
so nice.
and like, but so many artists have been doing that, and the Voids do it, but in a really forward thinking way, because it's not like stop, boom, second track, oh, it's the same thing. No, it builds and develops, and it like each track in this, most of them are over 5 minutes, close to 6 minutes long. So with only 10 songs, 42 minutes, I'm like, oh, this is a solid alternative record project, like beautiful. I love that. And each track makes you sit there and go through the waves, go through the emotions of it to really get the flow through, like the full picture of what it wants to sound. Right? With Square Wave, you have I think now they use auto tune just because it's kind of like a void sound in a way, which I think is actually kind of nifty that they do that. At first, I think he was doing it just to have fun and shit. The first Void's record, now it's like, oh, it's kind of a void sound. But with Square Wave, it almost sounds like an indie track, the way it's like a surf rock sound with the guitar and whatnot, but then it gets into more experimental sounds, and then it plays back to the indie motif, and then back to the experimental sound, and back and forth. Prophecy of the Dragon, the third right after that, right?
One of my favorites.
Really hard hitting, heavy hard rock sounds, and then it gets into experimental, and then plays back on the motifs back and forth. So you have like 2-in-1 throughout this record, but it's like push pull, polka revolving doors, and like the yin yang, but it really melts well because of the way that they make it sound. And I think because they've been doing this for a decade at this point, that they really perfected that 2-in-1 sound. And when I was watching or listening to a lot of people reviewing it or this or that, they're like, oh, it takes several listens to get into and all this, and people are like, oh, it's like there might be one sound you want to hear, but then it switches to another one. And you're like, oh, I wanted that one. I'm like, that's not the point.
Yeah, well, they're not real ones.
They're not. I'm like, they don't want that sound. And this is a fucking beautiful record. I'm very, very happy with this. Again, like they don't make them like this anymore. Alternative records, were really sometimes are very, very forward thinking in it, right? Indie records, very, very forward thinking. This is why our favorite artists, Arctic Monkeys, MGMT, they've done that, right? And I've been looking for a solid alternative record like this for a long time, and I go, oh God, they made it. Like this is beautiful. You have Seven Horses, and then you have Spectroanalysis, which is this beautiful fucking piano ballad that I'm like, oh Jesus, all right, Julian, all right, now you're one of my favorite artists now. Fucking New York. Thanks.
It is, yeah, this is definitely our bias notwithstanding, right? This is like the kind of music we really like. I definitely like Julian Casablancas in the Voidz because it is this like really sort of challenging, forward thinking sort of music. And I admittedly, I come to it very differently, and people have different opinions on the Voidz and all the Julian Casablancas projects, Julian Casablancas and Associates. But
yeah,
to me, if anything, this album gets more cohesive with more of the listens that I give it, because
me too.
Each song is allowed to do not just one different thing, like many different things from each other, borrowing from this like really deep well of things that the Voidz have done with their sounds in the past, but also things that they've evolved on. And you can have all of these songs that have their own like uniqueness to them, still work together and fit in an album. Like I'm not getting the whole like, oh, playlisty collection of songs vibe from it. And
Absolutely not.
yeah,
No way.
and I may be willing to give a band like the Voidz a little bit more leeway on that because it's so experimental and pushing it. Like, but no, they're even saying no, we'll take the challenge and still make it cohesive, which is yeah, that's what we love. We love it.
It's just, man, like hearing some of the singles, because some of these singles have been out for over a year too. And it was interesting to see what made it and what didn't make it. And someone like example, right? You had Prophecy of the Dragon like almost 2 years ago that was released, and then you had Flexorcist that was released last October. And those two, when I heard the singles, and then I stayed clear after that, I was like, oh, this, I don't know if this album's going to be good or not, because like those are two very, very different sounds. I'm like, how the hell are they going to do that? And they did, because the way that, I think too, the layout of the record is perfect for how experimental it is, but still approachable to most listeners, I would say. Especially if you're a connoisseur of the Voidz and stuff, you'll like this record. But even if you're just an alt fan and whatnot, especially, I think you'll come around to it over some time. It's just, in the words of Johnny Greenwood, there are loads to listen to. So
Absolutely.
it's great.
Arbitrary Scale. If anything, I feel like if I could be nitpicky here, as I tend to do with albums I really like, I think the walk-off outro piece, it just kind of ends very quickly and abruptly, I think, a little bit,
Yeah.
compared to the rest of the album, which is just this like long and varied thing. So I I definitely want to I guess like that'd be my one complaint. But yeah, Arbitrary Scale.
Arbitrary Scale. All right. Well, arbitrary scales. We do arbitrary scales on Audio Face because our review is our review. And listen to our review to get our opinion on it. This is a damn good record, and listen to it. God damn it. And this this one is our baby bottles of baby oil. Why? Stick with the news.
This is gonna be like this. We're in the drums unit of measurements with this album as well as we were like with the Jamie XX record. Like you're gonna need I'm gonna need a dolly for how much baby oil we're putting here.
This is the amount of so if you look at the fuel load of a Boeing 747-800, replace that with baby oil, and that's how much baby oil is needed for this record.
I'm just thinking about like if there was an Air Force like plane, what would be the code name for that payload? What do we call it? Operation Slippery.
Operation Sesame.
Oh God.
Peekaboo.
Yep.
Okay. Last album review of this episode is Endlessness by Nala Sinephro. I'm now really bad at pronouncing things. Yeah, Sinephro makes sense. I just like can't. It's definitely Sinephro. But I'm just bad at speaking. Welcome to the show we're hosting. This is just one of those like curveball picks where I'm like, okay, let's see what we're doing here. And what you get on this really ethereal record with a lot of like longer, thoughtful tracks that kind of like grow and develop. It has moments of like jazz and instrumental, and then like moments where it goes into like electronic in different ways too. And I was just very surprised by like, oh, a lot of this is very like well thought out and good, considering I've never heard of her before. And all of the tracks are named Continuum, which is hurting my brain a little bit, but you know, they're just numbered Continuum 1 and Continuum 2. And it gets to the sort of sense of the theme of the album, endlessness, and yeah, the songs really flowing together to create a theme.
I love that all this tracks are named Continuum 1 through 10 because, you know, one of my favorite records ever, Sigur Rós, has no titles, nothing. It's just Parentheses. That's it. Nothing else. So I love it that they did that. This is a really beautiful record. This is what I like to call perfection robot video game beats, because you definitely have like a lot of like bloop bloop sounds and stuff in here. Like I don't know how to describe it. I'm not saying it in a bad way, but just the way it's very ethereal. It's flowy. It's beautiful. We have this really nice kind of electronic beats. I almost feel like you're floating in space with some jazz overtones and stuff in the background that are really pretty. And
want to hear what I just
different
read?
in that regard.
She uses a what was this? Oh yeah, she uses a pedal harp with a modular synthesizer. That's kind of like all you need right there.
That makes sense. Also, she uses a modular synthesizer. She goes hard, because those are a pain in the ass to use. But you can get some like really, really beautiful sounds and electronic sounds that are like you can't really replicate with a computer that you can with a modular synthesizer and stuff. So, and then you loop a harp. It's like that's kind of gnarly. This is beautiful. It's one of those records where I love it sometimes. Like I've like in between flights or something, or I'm done and I'm just literally have time to kill before I skip a million years of traffic, and I'm just walking by myself and I want nothing. I just want soundscapes in a way to like put me in a different place. And now, like, this is perfect for that, because the first listen on this, I did that like unintentionally, just because I'm like, okay, let me get the first record, because I'm like, I know I'm gonna like jizz all over the Voidz and Jamie XX. Like, I already know I'm gonna like this.
That's
Probably.
similarly how I listen to records too. It's like, let me listen to the thing I have less like strong opinions about, so I can like, I've talked about the car banger and how I'll pick like what album is gonna be that, but honestly, everything sounds great on Tidal, so
Yeah,
I was enjoying it, especially this.
Yeah, I put it in the spatial mode on the Apple headphones too, and I'm like, oh, this is good. But what I really like the jazz motifs with experimental electronic sounds. It's different in that regard, because I've heard some before, but you can really mess it up like very, very easily, to where it can sound like a collection of sounds and not a cohesive project. And this right here, it's the way it plays out and everything with the tracks, with the layouts. It's very, very well done. And with the ambience, it's a very, very good ambient record. If you like ambient records and sounds and stuff, you'll really enjoy this one. It's different. It's not like just put on and forget about it. This one transports you, and I love when you get ambient tracks and ambient projects that do that, and this does that, and it's different. It really makes you think in that regard. It's beautiful. It's a very, very, very well done project. I'm glad I like. This is one of those again. We get an audio face. You hear about something random, and I'm like, all right, let's try it. And I go, oh shit, okay, love it.
Yeah, I have a little bit of a method to the madness here to make sure we're not just constantly reviewing
for
Travis
sure.
Scott's Days Before Rodeo, which is like I'm sure it's fine, but it's just like in a year like 2024 that feels like the least relevant record to me, even though
like we had a good Travis Scott project last year. I don't need another one. I'm happy on the Travis Scott I have.
Especially when Days Before Rodeo goes back to before Travis Scott's sound got really interesting.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I don't know. That's a hard no.
Yeah, because that's if it's Days Before Rodeo, it's years before Astroworld, and that's when I think Travis Scott really gets interesting sonically, and then this more recent album knocked it out of the park too. So there's definitely that. But yeah, this is definitely music that you can put on in the background. There's not really like lyricism to it. Get some good speakers, or like a good headphone system with it too. Maybe pick a streaming service that pays artists more per stream.
And does sound.
Yeah, as Apple Music and Tidal both do compared to Spotify and YouTube Music. I wanted to consider using YouTube Music as well, because then I can get premium and it's like all in one, and I consume a lot of YouTube anyways. They pay artists worse than Spotify.
Really? That's hilarious.
Worse. And as someone who
that's impressive.
As someone who like makes his minor shillings off of YouTube AdSense like revenue, I'm just like, man, that just don't sit right with me. It really don't. Also, I tried to put the audio face episodes, like the regular podcast episodes, onto YouTube because now it's like not Google Podcasts anymore, it's YouTube Podcasts. And it went through Content ID and all the episodes got flagged because we used music samples in them. So
God,
I'm just not liking YouTube music for a lot of reasons, and those are definitely the specific ones. That is to say, when you're listening to endlessness and you have some like good speakers or some good headphones to listen to it through, there's not lyrics to worry about. It's just soundscapes and vibes. I think Continuum 6 is my favorite sort of blend of something that's like energetic but also airy and ethereal and really hitting that right like blend of mixing jazz and yeah, this like sort of electronic experimental thing she's doing. So yeah, this is actually Belgian Nala as I'm reading, because she's currently living in Hotham but is from I think her parents are mixed, but either way, this is a cool record. I'm going to be playing it a lot. And I think it's going to be one of those like sleepers where the highbrow like NPRs and sort of things will put this on their like year-end album reviews, because definitely one of those. I feel like time is a flat circle, and now we've gone back to this term being relevant. But I feel like a hipster listening to this music, especially, and liking it the way I do. Arbitrary scale.
Arbitrary scale.
We do arbitrary scales every week on Audio Face because our review is our review with every album that we do on every week. So whether it's a letter ranking system or a number ranking system, we kind of shun those because it doesn't seem like it's fun for any of the outlets who do that. You don't hear needle drop going, I love when people comment about my album reviews and compare which scores they did. So if you want to pop off in the Audio Face YouTube comments about baby oil, God bless. I think that's just a better experience for everyone. This is going to be one of those like big rig 18-wheelers that you get at the port, where like it's just a big shipping container full of lube. And there's like no containers in that too. It's just the container just has like, the sludge. Insert Frank's imports and exports from Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
This is one of those container ships that during COVID just sat out of the port like for months on end and ended up leaking baby oil all into Port of LA. Love it.
Whatever cleans the river. Tinkerbell saying that YouTube is unwatchable without premium. Yeah, I've noticed that they don't put in so many ads for longer videos, so I watch like a lot of like video essays, and I'll go like 30 minutes without seeing an ad. I'm like, okay, that's fair. Discount Seth Rogen saying you have to purposely try to undercut Spotify for royalties. Fuck that, I'm gonna get a Napster subscription. I still kind of hold the opinion that the only ethical way to stream music is LimeWire, but that's a different Audio Face episode. I'm kidding, because that wouldn't really be paying artists. This has been Audio Face. Sometimes we do long ones, sometimes we do quick ones, but what does it mean to play us out, me, because I am hosting? Thank you very much for listening and watching. I have to play a jingle. There we go. You can find us at audioface.show. All of the links are there. You get access to all of our episodes that we've done in the past. We've like dug into not old artists necessarily, but like artists who we think have made like really great contributions to music and the game of it. And rumor has it we might be doing some more of those again in the future, because frankly it's been too long since we've done any one of them. And if Mozart's dropping in 2024, I think we've made our point. So what else can I say? Sean cannot be followed. I would prefer you not. Long game once again. And this is, I'm on Dan from the Web and places, and of course Power Report, etc. But thank you very much for listening and watching, and we will see you in the next episode. Cheers.
Boy.